I think everybody knows I'm Gary Bland. I hope you're on the lug here in West Virginia. We are recording this for our YouTube channel, so it'll get posted out there once I get good internet and can upload something. Today we got Ben McCann presenting on Lutris, a Linux platform for gaming. Go ahead, Ben.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and start presenting now. Hopefully. So yeah, as Gary said, I'm Ben McCann. I work on Red Hat systems mostly in my day job, but working on the lug this month. I've started working on open source gaming with Lutris, and I'm going to go over a quick PowerPoint, just kind of going over the who, what, where, and whys of Lutris. I'm not sure where that's going to. And then I'll do a quick little demo of the actual product itself. So begin with, we ask, what's Lutris? It's an open source gaming platform for Linux. So you can play a variety of games from different platforms on top of Linux. I know usually the issue that people run into with gaming is that most games are created with Windows first in mind, and Linux, if it's ever developed for Linux, it's usually an afterthought for a game. So Lutris's goal is to make it to where you can play any game you want on top of Linux. They do that through a variety of services, which we'll get into here in a minute. But basically, what they do is they have a Linux or a open source project where people can create community contributed installation scripts that you can use to install and easily install, I should say, for the most part, and actually play your games with relatively few hiccups for Linux. If you have tried gaming on Linux in the past, you may notice you may have had issues. There's been like all these hoops you have to jump around and to get it to work. But Lutris tries to solve those problems by making just easy scripts called runners to do that for you, to do the grunt work for you. So I've already gone over some of this, but why would you use Lutris? Most games don't receive Linux ports. Some do, and it's the support's gotten better over the last few years, but there's still kind of a big market of people that I think would love to play on Linux instead of Windows, and they're not being catered to as well as they could be. So there's like I said earlier, there's a lot of different things that people have made to port Windows games over to Linux, but the experience is not been traditionally one that you want to go through if you want to just game. So it's very handy. Lutris itself is very handy in that it'll launch games across several different platforms, which I believe we're going to get into in this slide here. So different platforms that you can install your games using Lutris. You can do good old games, Humble Bundle, Steam, Origin, Uplay, Battle.net, and there are other services out there that I think are supported as well. I mostly did just the ones that come out of the box with Lutris. So like good old games, Humble Bundle, Steam are the big ones we'll hit today, and I'll do a little bit of stuff from Battle.net too. So when you're going to actually use Lutris, it's not that hard to install. There's only just a few packages that I would recommend that you need. First of all, there's Lutris itself, which should be available at least on Fedora systems. It's available just by default, so you can just do a DNF install for Lutris. I'm going to walk through that here in a few minutes. So I know you guys that are on the call are all pretty familiar with this kind of stuff, but if there's anybody that's watching this after the fact, this may be useful for them. You also want to install Wine, because a lot of the games that you will be running will be using Wine to do the backbone work for Lutris. And finally, I recommend Steam, because most people I know have massive Steam libraries from the copious amounts of sales that are out there. So and on top of that, Steam itself, which I will say actually, Steam's Proton distributor, you want to call that, has been very useful for Linux gaming. They've made it pretty streamlined to get most games up and running just by default on Steam through the Proton stuff. And I've had really good luck with a lot of my Steam games on this demo. You'll also have to just install drivers for your graphics cards. NVIDIA, I think, I didn't actually test with NVIDIA because I don't have an NVIDIA card on this laptop. But I know from past experience, NVIDIA tends to have their own proprietary drivers that usually work better than what the main Linux drivers do. AMD cards usually work pretty well with the drivers, but I've seen a lot of suggestions to install the Mesa drivers for if you're using an AMD card, which I'm not going to go over any of that today because I feel like that's a very fine-tuned to what kind of card you're actually running on your system at home. So I don't think there's any point in me going over what I have particularly, especially since my card is about 8 years old and is very out of date and doesn't work for some of these games anyways. So this is the last slide, and then we'll get into the kind of the meat and bones of it. These are just some different links that I thought might be useful for you guys to check out for this process. The first one is just the download link for us. Now, it says it's a download link, but most of it's just explaining to you how to install it from repositories, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes. Then I've got since I'm running on Fedora, I've got the instructions for how to install Wine from Fedora. And then finally, I've got the how to install Steam and enable Proton on Fedora. When we get to that part, I'm going to give you a few caveats that I had ran into whenever I wasn't working with Steam, because there was a few things that I ran into that didn't allow me to get my games right on the first try whenever I was initially working with this. I do have two further links here. The donate link is just if you want to contribute money to the project to help them develop for future gaming needs. There's that link there, and then the final link is the actual GitHub project for the Lutris product. And I believe that's the last slide. So, any big questions yet? I don't expect there are, so I'm probably just going to bully on forward. So I'll give you a quick little view of the different links that I showed you or was talking about. So this is just the Lutris.net site that shows you kind of what they're going for. It has different links and shows you some of the games that they're working on currently. You can get to the download links, the support, and the contribute from here. And as you can see, like just at a glance, that these are some of the games that they support. So like here's Elder Scrolls, there's World of Warcraft, Overwatch. I've heard Overwatch is a pretty good experience on here, but I didn't actually test that because I don't actually own it for PC. If you want to download Lutris, there's a whole page here that goes about how you would do it in different, install it in different flavors of Linux. As I said, I'm using Fedora, so as you can see, Lutris is available in the official repositories. I guess, can you guys see this, or should I scroll in some so it's a little larger?
I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
All right. So it's a pretty simple install for Lutris itself, and then at the top they even explain how to, or they encourage you to install Wine and drivers, and that's where I got the link for installing Wine itself. So without further ado, we'll just go ahead and install Lutris. Now, I've kind of been installing it and uninstalling the packages just in general in preparation for this, just to see how easy I could see if it was worth showing you guys off how it does work. So a lot of the games I've actually already still got pre-installed. Whenever you delete the packages, they don't necessarily delete the games underneath them. So like the games are still living in the on my laptop. So I should be able to just launch a few after we get this stuff installed. So that's good to know if you ever, for whatever reason, feel like, oh, this isn't working. Maybe if I uninstall or reinstall, maybe something will work. The game should stay in your hard drive and be accessible after you're done doing the uninstall and reinstall. This won't take very long. It's basic stuff, it's just going over the list of packages and installing. And after it's done, we'll go ahead and go on to the installing the Wine packages. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to add the actual repository for Wine. And from there, it's just, again, this is the command that you would run if you're running Fedora 34, which I am. And after you do that, you can then install Wine. And looks like this is mostly there, so I can go ahead and get onto that. So install Wine. So again, this won't take very long. It shouldn't take very long anyways. It didn't whenever I was testing it earlier. And now Wine, like I said, is just, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a backbone for running Windows applications within Linux. It basically simulates like some of the processes that would run for Windows, and then runs them. And I don't exactly know how it does it. I can't claim that I do, but it allows you to run Windows applications with Linux. I believe Lutris comes with some Wine runners by default, but I had some issues with some of the games that I was trying to install. So I went the extra step and installed the Wine packages from the command line, because after I did that, some of the issues that I saw went away. So that's something you would have to keep in mind if you do explore this, is that even though Lutris does have some Wine support out of the box, I believe, it's going to be a good idea to actually these packages yourself, because it will there's things that will not work unless you do that. So while it's doing that, we'll go ahead and talk about the install of Linux. And these were just quick searches for stuff like this. There's not much to the Steam install either. You just have to enable the appropriate repository, which you can do that through command line like we did with Wine, but this particular guide actually talks about doing it through the GUI for the Fedora software stuff. I didn't do it that way, but I'm not going to bother showing you how to add the repos. It's already done, and this guide here will show you how to do it. The big things that I would recommend out of this page is other than the install, is it does tell you how to enable Proton, which Proton is a system that Steam has developed specifically to run Windows games on Linux. I think they were talking about I don't know if you guys have seen the Steam Deck that's been announced that Valve is going to be publishing alongside Steam. But they've said, and working with that their goal is to have every gaming title available on their platform available to work under Linux using Proton within the next couple of years. I don't know what the date is or not. But what I will say is that from the little experience that I've had here installing some of my games from Linux, the Steam does a really good job of running programs under Linux that were originally meant for Windows. So as you can see, the Wine just got done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a DNF install of Steam. And that's only a few packages, so that should go really quick. Anyways, down further in this link, which again is in the slide deck, and I can give anybody the slide deck or the links after this meeting if they want. But Gary's recording anyways, so they'll be available anyways. Now that we have this done, I'm going to go ahead and launch Steam. And I don't remember if okay, so it actually saved my user info and stuff as well. So to get Proton enabled, and it explains it through this guide, but I'll just show you real quick. I'm actually just going to put this down here for the moment. So it shows this to you in this Linux in this website here, but you go to the Steam thing up in the top left, go to settings, and then there is the Steam Play option, and you're going to want to enable Steam Play for all other titles. This is what's enabling Proton for use on Linux. I chose to run it says run other titles with, and you can do the Proton Experimental. I've been doing just what I believe is the stable release, and it's been working pretty well for me. The other thing that I will mention that you might have an issue with Steam is that you need to make your game details public, because if you do not, Lutris won't automatically see what you have available in your library, and it will fail to even load your library. So to do that, you need to, I'm sorry, I should have been talking while I was doing this, but you need to enable it to be public, you need to go to your profile, and then you need to edit profile, and then there's a privacy settings, and there's your profile settings. You need to set them to public, and you specifically need the game details to be public. If you do not have it public, then Lutris won't automatically be able to see what's in your library, and you're just going to be wondering why nothing's showing up. Real quick before I actually open up Lutris, I'm just going to show you the other two links that I had in the slide deck, even though they're not technical. This is the link that I was talking about for if you would actually want to contribute financially to the project. And this here is the actual GitHub repos for the project if you're interested in checking that out as well. So with all that said, now that we have Steam installed and we have Lutris, we're going to launch Lutris. I just got this cute little, I don't know if it's an otter around this thing or what, but now that'll take a moment to start. Now, some caveats I'll give you with Lutris is that it works very well, but and I don't know if this is my hardware, which I should also mention is like I said, it's from the year 2012. Like it's old hardware, so it's not like latest and greatest stuff. So some of my issues that I'm having might be because of hardware. In fact, I know some of my issues are hardware because some games can't recognize my graphics card for some reason, and they try to run off the integrated graphics on the CPU instead, and then they don't work. That being said, sometimes Lutris itself, the client, will crash, in my experience. Sometimes it just dies, but that being said, it launches back up really easily, and I have not yet seen it mess with actually playing a game. It's more like whenever you're trying to install something that your computer doesn't know how to install, like, because of your graphics cards and stuff like that, if you have issues like mine. So to go over Lutris real quick, as you can see, there's your library up in the top left, and this shows all the games that you have installed. It's also showing games that I had installed, but I had deleted. I deleted these because I thought they might be worth showing how you can actually install them during this demo. I picked one that's from, I think this one's on Good Old Games, and this one here is from Steam. And they're both relatively small. Psychonauts will actually take a while, but Valheim's installed really quick when I tried it earlier. You can see like what you've recently messed with and favorites and stuff like that. I haven't messed with too much with that, but that exists. So here you can see a list of different sources that you might be able to find your games in. So, some of these are familiar. I'm sure you've seen Steam, Humble Bundle, Good Old Games. But then there's the Lutris one here itself. Now, what I'm going to show you real quick is if you click on the community installers here for Lutris, and then you can search for a game that you want to play. So let's talk about like Overwatch, for instance, because I haven't actually messed with that at all. You just search it, and it'll find the installers for you, and then you can click install, and then it'll give you a list of the runners that they have for actually installing the program. I'm not going to mess with it on this one because, like I said, I don't actually own Overwatch for the PC, so it's not going to work anyways. But there tends to be a list of things that you can install from. So, like, this is just the standard one. This is the Chinese execute script, which actually is the first time I've seen this. I've not seen a foreign language one yet, so that's interesting to me. And then there's a this one has a manual. A lot of the times you'll see stuff like, well, let's take Psychonauts for an example. If I search Psychonauts, I believe this is one of the ones that showed me what I want to show you guys. Yes. So it'll show that you can have the good old games version or the Humble Bundle version or the Steam version, depending on what you own. I owned it on, I believe, good old games. So we'll install there. I'll double check here that I do own it before we get started. And it'll be a nice opportunity to show this anyways. So I should mention you'll have to create an account for Lutris to have this functionality. I don't remember what mine is, but you can log out of it by just clicking this button and log back in. Same thing with good old games and stuff like that. Steam's a little more interesting, I think, in that like it just automatically populates based off what it reads on the computer itself. So like it reads your local repository of on your Steam client and then pulls it into here. But as I said, I have Psychonauts on good old games, so we'll install that version here in a moment. I'm actually going to go ahead and start that because that one might take a while, and hopefully we can get it done in the next few minutes, and it'll be worth showing off. Oh, see, it just crashed, like I said it does sometimes. Which is not, and that's a good time to talk about Lutris in general. Is like it is very nice, but it's not as seamless as just installing something from your Steam library all the time. It takes a little bit more work, but that being said, whenever you do get the stuff installed, generally it works very well. So let's get back to that. Let's try this again. Okay. So I'm going to pick the good old games install, and then it'll show you what directory you're installing in. I've just been putting everything in my games directory and my home directory because I don't really care where it installs, so I just thought that was a good place. You click install, and you can click this download button, but if you just click continue, like sometimes this will be a list of things that you need to download, and it'll just automatically do them all. So right now it's going to do that, and hopefully my internet's fast enough to where it will go pretty quickly. And I don't know if this is a good idea, but we'll continue showing other stuff while that's installing. So this is when I kind of want to talk about runners. So runners, as I mentioned, are the different scripts that people have developed to actually install and run your video games. So the ones that I've had installed here, you can see DOSBox, Libretro, which I don't know which game did that, but I have just the Linux runner, Steam, Wine, and then Wine Steam, because not only can you run your games off Steam, you can run games from Wine on a special thing for Steam, which I've had some success with, but I don't like that as much as just running straight from Steam. You can see a list here if you click this gear icon, and you can see a whole list of runners that are available for installing different games. Most of I don't know what most of these do, but some of them are like GameCube emulators, DS emulators. So Travis, I think it might have some support for your Switch gaming if we look hard enough, but I've not tested because I did not think about testing anything like that.
Well, that Libretro would have done it for you too. That's what you do.
Oh, would it? Okay.
Raspberry Pis.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I'll have to mess with that because I've got some Switch games that would be fun to have on my PC. Oops. But as I said, these scripts are developed by the community, and I think specific ones for specific games are made by the community to help things work out. And then if you click down here on the platforms, you can see what games you have installed under what type of system. I had Psychonauts in the search bar there, so it wasn't showing everything, but now you can see this different games that I've got installed. So let's see how that's going. That's going to be a little bit. But while we're waiting on that, let's try to do Valheim as well, because Valheim's not a very big download. I think we can probably get that done quicker than Psychonauts. Now, I picked these two games because, one, they're both relatively small, and two, I was able to get them running pretty well earlier. Hopefully they run well this time. But they're also, the Psychonauts is actually a native Linux port, so it's not running anything fancy. It's just running straight up on Linux. Valheim, on the other hand, is on Steam, and it might not let me do it since I've got it on at the same time, because it's definitely not doing anything when I click the button. So we might just have to wait for that to go. But in the meanwhile, I guess I can show you different games that I have installed. Now, it's funny to me that they don't actually have like a BattleNet source here. Maybe I'm missing something, and maybe there's a way to put it here. But I've gotten it installed on itself, so I can actually real quick how that works. I'm actually just going to skip getting into the BattleNet. Well, I still have to get into the BattleNet client, but I'll launch Starcraft 2 just so you can see how it looks on a Linux system. This isn't the new in the world, obviously, but I feel like, you know, it's new-ish compared to a lot of the games I have on here, and I thought it'd be good to show you how well it does work. It doesn't look as clean as it does on my PC, but that being said, my PC has a better graphics, like my main PC has a better graphics card than this laptop does. Only problem is it's running because I wanted to run games on it, and I did not know Lutris existed whenever I built that PC. So hopefully Starcraft's coming on. I can't actually tell. While we're waiting, does anybody have any questions? I don't know if this will do anything or not. I hate to click anything again. What's that?
So you're not going to load Valheim and show off my kick-ass base I made in the Mistlands?
If you want me to. If you give me the IP and have it recorded for everybody to see, then yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I don't know why StarCraft's not working. Maybe if I launch it from Lutris itself. Let's try that. Oh, that was
for the graphics drivers, did you have to do that separately, or did Lutris try to load that too?
So I had to do my graphics drivers separately, and that's I don't know if you heard me mention earlier, or maybe I can't remember if I said this on here or whether I said it before we get started. But the issue I've run into with this PC is that since my graphics card is older and it doesn't want to use the latest drivers, and like the latest drivers just don't work for it. So what I found is some games don't actually read the drivers properly, and then when I go try to launch a game, it tries to run over the integrated CPU, and they don't work. I actually ran into that the first time I ran StarCraft. I might have to let my authenticator go. The first time I ran StarCraft, it just froze as soon as it launched, and I thought it might have just been because of Lutris, but I figured out later that no, it's just that the fact that it's trying to run off the CPU instead of the graphics card. So let me try this again now that that's up. Maybe that's the problem. So I definitely want to make sure it goes over the graphics card, otherwise it's probably not going to work. And if this doesn't work in a second, I'll try a different game that should work. This is one of those things that's makes you sweat bullets, because it was working fine earlier, but now things want to be different. I'm not sure. Maybe if I just press play. My concern is that it's going to try to launch it like 3 or 4 times now, and then it's going to freak out, and then we'll have other issues. We'll see. There we go. Hopefully it's going off the graphics card and not the CPU. I think it must be working correctly because whenever I was running over the CPU, it would get froze right here. Like it wouldn't even log onto this screen here. All right, cool. So we'll just jump into a campaign game real quick. Continue. So yeah, I don't know how loud this is. I apologize if it's blasting out your ears, but as you can see, it runs pretty well. I need to turn its sound down. I don't know if you guys did you guys hear that, or is it am I the only one that hears it?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, so that's all in my headphones then. Sorry, I couldn't hear myself talk, so I didn't even know if anybody was talking. So yeah, as you can see, it's running pretty well. It's running a little slower than it did earlier, but I think I've got a few things running at the same time right now, so that kind of explains that. But it's pretty responsive. It doesn't look quite as well as it could, but again, this is a very hard, and I believe there were some issues with the AMD graphics cards when the game actually released, so that might just be expected behavior. But I mean, I'm not having any issues with like real stuttering on the game or anything, and it just works. And this is a game that does not have Linux support built into it. It was a Windows game. You could get it on Mac as well, but it was never designed for Linux. So go ahead and quit out of the game now. And just to flex my nerd cred, a low-level masters in Starcraft 2 on the online play, so suck it, anybody that wasn't. All right, here we go. Okay, it's got Psychonauts done, it looks like. So I shouldn't really have to do anything at this point. It should just install everything. I do think with Psychonauts specifically, I had some issues with actually launching it. I think earlier when I was trying, I did actually have to run it as a script, as instead of launching it from the launcher. But that being said, when it did launch, it was very smooth and worked really well. Other than installing games and showing you different games running on the system, that's pretty much all I have for the presentation. If there's do you guys have any other questions that I might be able to answer? Okay. So I was wrong. It actually is going. Now, I don't know why I showed up in the windowed mode. It did the same thing earlier. I didn't really play with it enough to figure out what was going on. And it seems like my mouse doesn't actually have focus. So give me a second here. Oh.
So outside of Steam and good old games, have you seen anything from their development where they may be trying to get the Windows Xbox Live to work through it or not?
So Xbox Live, I can't talk about really. I can really just talk about games themselves because that's really all I've checked out. But
I was just saying because it looks like a lot of it is tying to services. So you said it's got good old games and Steam. I was just wondering if Origin and Xbox.
I believe
stuff for
I'm pretty sure Origin is. I think Origin is supported, but I think it even calls it out. Yeah, it calls it out on the front page. Go Game, Steam, Battle.net, Origin, Uplay, and many other sources. It doesn't mention Xbox Live, so I'm guessing that they don't have that yet. But I don't know, and I don't know if there's any. I have not seen anything saying whether or not that's going to be supported in the future.
Okay, I was just curious. Be kind of cool to get Game Pass working on Linux. Oh
yeah, definitely. That would be awesome. just from just kind of an old school gamer standpoint, some of these good old games like Earthworm Jim, Below, stuff like this, games from like, back in the 90s, like they worked really well in here. I was playing a little bit of Diablo earlier, and it was really smooth sailing, which is nice since that's probably a 20-year-old game at this point. Yeah. Do we want to install Valheim, or do we think we're good to go? Does anybody want to see it? I guess is my question.
I've seen plenty of it.
Yeah, I knew you and Steve had. So, but I mean, it worked really well for me when I did it. It didn't look that fantastic like visually, but again, I have an old graphics card, and B, I don't think it's the most fantastic. It's got kind of a blocky look to it, anyways. I think, doesn't it? It doesn't look like state of the art. If I'm remembering stuff right. But yeah, if nobody has any other questions, I think I'm pretty well good to go, and hopefully this was helpful for people, and people might try this out for themselves.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you doing the presentation. Pretty cool topic, and yeah, we can get it. I'll get it posted up on the YouTube channel.
I will actually, before I do want to say one last thing is I'm currently in the process of building a gaming / just working PC anyways. This has seriously made me think that I might just switch over to Linux totally, because the things that I've seen, it seems like it's running pretty well, and I at least want to try it on like more up-to-date hardware to see if it is a good way to game, without having to install Windows. But I'm kind of optimistic it will be, but I'm not sure. But I'm definitely something I'm keen to try out in the future.
Sounds like a job for dual boot.
Yeah, that's the other thing I can't do. That's something I've thought about, but I'm still, I guess you guys know, I've only got like 2 or 3 pieces bought so far. So. And on your chat, I'd be more than happy to try Dawn of War sometime. I actually bought it years ago and haven't really played it, so I'd be curious to actually get into it.
I haven't played it in years. I have the newer one, and I wasn't super into it. I prefer the older one with the Winter Assault expansion.
Gotcha. Go ahead and stop presenting now.
Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. We can keep chatting if you guys want.
Cool.
Thanks everybody for taking some time out this evening.
Yep. Thanks for everybody for listening.
Hey man, thanks for presenting.
Yeah, thanks for sure, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.